You need to travel to fulfill your destined full potential. Destined full potential. You see, there is something that we call environment. Environment. If you plant an apple, imported apple seed, and you plant it in my city in Ibadan, it is not going to germinate. It's not going to germinate. The reason is because the environment that it is in is different. The environment that it is in is different. So you need to fulfill your potential. The value of a medical doctor in Nigeria is different from the value of a medical doctor in US. You can even talk about the exchange rate. You can talk about a whole lot of things. But when a cleaner in Nigeria is earning 30,000 naira or 20,000 naira, even on a federal government scale, somebody that is cleaning the street of New York is earning maybe $1,200. If you convert it, that is more than the salary of a professor in Nigeria. What am I saying? You need to travel so that you can fulfill your full destined potential. So as I was saying, there's a lot of questions that you get to ask. So is it achievable to travel? Yes, for sure. It's all up to you if you are ready to take the journey. Travel and exploring the world is a personal decision. And I'm going to share two stories of two people with you that have inspired me all this while. Two people. And the first person is the man you can see on your screen. His name is Ali Baba. If you don't know him, go and write it down. Ali Baba is the president of Ali. His name is Jack Ma, pardon me. He's the CEO and president of Alibaba Group. And he said a quote. He said, today is hard, tomorrow will be worse. He said, but the day after tomorrow, there's going to be a sunshine. There's going to be a sunshine. So let us look at the story of Jack Ma. I call him the father of failure. Now, in his early childhood, Jack Ma failed his primary school examination. Not once, but twice. He failed 3 times in his middle school exams. That's like JSS 3. Now that is somebody you see that cannot become anything. Now when applying for university after his high school, Jack failed his entrance exam another 3 times before finally joining a university in China. He even applied and wrote to Harvard 10 times about being admitted and got rejected each time. Who writes to Harvard University 10 times? At the 3rd time, what kept him going? On the 4th, on the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, what kept him going? What kept him going? And see one of his quotes. He said, if you want to be a great company, think about what social problem you can solve. It's about solving problems. That quote is accredited to him. So I continue with his story. So during and after his bachelor's degree, he tried and failed to get a job in multiple places. After spending 3 years to get into the university, he failed to land a job after applying to them 30 times. And he said this, he said when KFC came to China, he said 24 people went for the job, 23 people were accepted. I was the only guy that was not accepted. Somebody that has been tagged a failure. He said he was also one of the 5 applicants for a job in the police force and was only one getting rejected and was told you are of no good out of 5 people. Also on entrepreneurial undertakings, Jack Ma went on to fail on 2 of his initial ventures, but that didn't stop him in a way of dreaming bigger. How do you define somebody who dreams bigger? Somebody who goes and writes to Harvard back to back, and they're telling you no, we don't want you, and you keep knocking on that door. There are a lot of us, we knock on travel door, you apply for US visa once you are refused, and you say they have refused me, I don't know what. You need to keep knocking on that door. They're going somewhere. One of the quotes of Jack Ma, he said, we are never in lack of money, we lack people with dreams who can die for those dreams. We don't lack money, we lack people who have dreams and I can die for those dreams. Can you die for this travel dream? I'm asking you. So after finally coming to terms with all his rejection and failure, Jack Ma visited the US in 1995. That is in red. He visited where? US. So a man who has been in China all his life and has been tagged a failure had a singular opportunity to travel in the year 1995. for a government undertaking projects related to building of highways. It was then that Jack Ma was first introduced to the internet and computers, and then computers were rare in China, given the high cost associated with them, and internet or emails were non-existent. The first word he searched on the Mosaic browser was beer, and it popped up results from different countries, but no sign of China anywhere. And he decided it was time for China and his people to get on the internet. I saw one of his interviews. He said when he wanted to register his company and he told them something internet, they were asking him, what is internet? Ability to see, to have a vision and key into the future. So the life of this man would have still been miserable if he did not have the opportunity to travel out. So traveling out was the singular thing that changed his life and gave him a lifelong opportunity. Today, that man is worth in excess of $40 billion and one of the richest people in the world. So let us bring this home. How many of us know Aliko Dangote, the president of Dangote Groups? Presently is worth roughly about between 13 and 16 billion dollars, and he's the richest man in Africa for the 9th or 11th time consecutively. So let us look at this. He granted an interview to Francine Leclerc from France, a publisher of Bloomberg, and they asked him a question. They said, you have made billions in cement, something people have been doing. Now what did you see? How did you figure it out? He said, I think actually I figured out was looking at the entire African continent and saying, what do we actually produce? And he said the better way he thought would be to empower Africa to meet our own infrastructural need. And one of the things are the core attributes of Travel and Learn Club is to help people to travel, so that when you go, you are exposed to knowledge, you have information. And sometimes in the future, you can use this empowerment that you have and the knowledge that you have acquired from a developed country to come back to Africa and Nigeria to develop it. And that is the reason why we are doing a whole lot of this. So they asked him, so the interviewer asked him that before we talk too much about your future, what was it like growing up in the past? And then he said, I grew up in Kano, Nigeria. After my school, I went to Egypt and finished there. Now, a lot of us say he's the richest man in the world, but what are the things that has happened that made him the richest man in the world? Have you observed that? Why do politicians stop politicians? Why do they send their children abroad to go and study? Why do people expose themselves to foreign things? I so much believe in Africa, and that is the reason why I'm so passionate about this. So Dangote said he schooled in Egypt, and then he moved to Lagos to do business. So you can see at a point in his life, he was also exposed to that traveling. And whether we like it or not, that will have added in tremendous way to who he is today. And then they asked him that you spent some time in Brazil. That was another place that Dangote visited for a long time. In Brazil, what was it like? Now listen, he said Brazil was having a lot of currency challenges then, as well as inflation, but they were very industrious. They have a lot of industries that have been built by entrepreneurs. He said, I got to interview quite a lot of them, a man with a purpose. By going around, I sort of went to Brazil to convince myself to move into industrialization. Now, he went to Brazil. He said he was moving around. A lot of us that are looking at this video, you need to go somewhere. You need to go somewhere and perceive it. You need to go somewhere and feel what is happening there for you to come about that eureka ideas. I tell people, when you travel, why do you travel? As a travel consultant, any place I go to, I'm looking for companies, I'm looking for DMOs, I'm looking for partners that will help my business. If it's a pastor that travels somewhere, they are looking out for churches where they can preach. If it is an architect, they are looking at structures. There are things that come into your mind when you are exposed to development. So he said he was in Brazil to introduce himself, to encourage and convince himself to go into industrialization. And that is the whole lot of the ideas. We need to go somewhere to see development and come back here to implement them. And they asked him, what's the most powerful thing that you learned when you were there? And listen, he said, I went to a company that is called Arisco. It was my first time seeing over 600 people working in a single factory. I went there to visit them and see how they started the business. He said they have begun very small, salt, seasoning, adding garlic into soap. By the time I was there, Arisco was producing 500 different items, even toothpaste. He said you could not wake up in the morning without using their product. Let me ask you today, how can you escape a Dangote product in Nigeria? The same principle he went to see somewhere, he implemented it here and it's working. The same thing and the same reason why you should travel. Don't travel because you are looking for greener pasture. Don't travel because Nigeria is frustrating, Africa is limiting me. No, travel because you want to go and seek opportunity. You want that eureka moment. It is not just about work. It could come in form of business contract. It could be in any form. But whenever you have opportunity to travel, open up your mind. Open up your mind. I myself, travel has changed my mind. You know, I read physics in my